Welcome back to Digi Bro.
Zoopity boop.
Yeah.
I got the scent of stinky kids.
The youth are starting to change.
I smell it. I smell you.
Starting to change. You're getting pretty close to the farthest I ever got in this game, which is like right after getting all the bugs in this segment.
I always thought it was interesting in these parts where you're running through as the wolf and you're following the scent, because you're like, I usually just stay in the scent mode the whole time and you can't fucking see anything. And it's interesting because you come back as when you cleanse everything and you're like, I have no idea what any of this is like, because when I ran through the first time I was using the scent, it
Right.
becomes this whole new area that you haven't seen before.
Yeah. This is actually this is another part that pissed me off in this game, which is part of why I got demoralized and ended up not playing anymore.
Oh, the teleportation thing?
No. I'm not paying attention to what's on screen. I just meant in general of this part of the game. Is that it finally put you in Hyrule Field,
And then takes you right
but
out of Hyrule Field.
immediately sends you right to your next mission.
It's kind of teasing you Hyrule Field.
Right. It puts you out, and it's like Hyrule Field, but it's like this small little area, and you're like, this is not, and you're thinking this must be like a big expansive place. It's not. You literally are in a tiny little piece of field that only leads to your next destination.
Yes.
And you have to go straight there and do another wolf segment. It is not at all the beginning of Hyrule. Where like in Ocarina of Time, it's like you finished the first dungeon, you did all your shit, and then you just enter this, what to you is a huge field. You're like, whoa! And you can see everything. You can see the castle. You can see this mysterious, I went to Kakariko Village. What's this place? I can't go up on the mountain. I guess I'll go to somewhere else. Oh, there's this broken bridge into Gerudo Valley. What's that? I don't know anything. What's this fenced off area? There's giant things. Oh my god, I'm in a castle town, and there's people, and they're all talking to me, and then you go to the castle, and you're like, I gotta wake up this dude, and it's like, you could have, it just lets you go so many places, like, you can't do anything anywhere else, but it shows you, like, the whole game right there. You know that there's all these different locations, all these things that are now mysterious and interesting, and in this game, it's like, you finished the tutorial, yeah! Go do this mission immediately,
Yes.
Like, there's no running around.
I always feel like they tease you about the field, but then it makes it, like, pretty awesome when you finally do get to actually go out into the world. You're like, oh, right, I fucking made it.
They're just blueballing you, is what you're saying.
Yes, they are
They're
blueballing
fucking
you.
blueballing you.
I feel like it's almost like manipulating your expectation of the other game.
Maybe.
I mean, I feel like there are some things that are subverting and referencing Ocarina of Time. Like the fact that, like, we beat that boss, and then, like, in Ocarina of Time, you beat the boss, and the shining golden goddess emblem comes down, and it's like, look at this beautiful shining thing I got from defeating this boss. In this game, you defeat the boss, and this menacing, like, piece of a freaky mask comes down, and it's playing, like, this ominous music. It's like, what did I even just do? Like, what is this fucking thing I'm collecting? It doesn't really seem good at all.
That's a pretty interesting take.
Yes.
But I think, like, in terms of structure of this game, I think they just wanted to make it as big and epic as possible.
Perhaps.
And, because, like, to me, the formula this game tries to follow is like the Lord of the Rings films, right? Where it's like, this is the 9-hour game. You know, I mean, not literally, because 9 hours for a game would be short. But, like,
it starts you off very small, and then grows in a cone as it goes along.
Like, the way the Lord of the Rings is structured is every scene gets as much fucking time as it needed. Because it's like, they didn't make it 3 tightly structured little... I mean, mind you, I think the pacing is pretty great in the Lord of the Rings films, like, overall. But, like, they took a long time in the Shire at the start. There was no rush to get out of there. There was no, like, we need to get this fucking shit rolling. It's like... They had this party scene. They have, the wizard and
which is cool.
And
I like that about this game, is that
forever.
it's kind of like it goes at its own pace, and it's not trying to be a fast-paced game. Like, if you're expecting it to be fast-paced like the other games, and you get out and you get all this shit,
I'm just not sure.
Like, you're not in it
I'm not sure that they handled it as well as they could have.
Yeah.
Because the problem with doing that in a game is that you want to have fun with the game, and it presents you with, like, especially if you've played, like you said, if you compare it to other Zelda games, that's the first problem. And obviously, if you can get past that comparison and just enjoy it for itself, then you can get past one hurdle. But I just think it's teasing you at something like, here's the controls, you can wander around, you can fight, you can talk to people, but then it puts you in such a tight little compact area for so long, you know, and it just keeps railroading you for so long. And it's just like, it's not quite the same as something like The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings, where, you know, you're just sort of acclimatizing yourself to the characters, and then the call to adventure happens, and you get a nice chase scene, but you're always you're always curious about what's going to happen next. I think the way that this game will put you in this wolf mode, it feels like everything's on pause when you're in wolf mode. You know, it just feels like the game has come to a halt, because you know you're going to have to do everything twice. You know that what's happening in Dark World is like, just, it doesn't seem to affect what you're doing, you know? Like, you're not making progress. It's just something you have to do before you get to make progress. And it elongates this unbelievably long opening segment of the game, you know? Like, alright, I came to a new town, now I gotta get all these bugs, fight all these enemies, and then you walk through the town and talk to all the people and get the new town experience, like you would have in the Wind Waker, where you show up on the island with the bird people.
Definitely,
and it's like, hey, I'm in this new place, and I get to meet all these new people, and like learn to care about this place, and then I start playing in this place, you know?
Yes.
I just don't think these wolf segments have any weight to them, and it just feels like you're doing bitch work. And
I don't know,
waiting for this game to get big and open up and feel like, all right, now I'm actually on a big adventure, you know? I just think that their mentality was, it's going to be big, so we can make the opening segment as long as we want to, because it's supposed to be a giant, epic, super long game. But they just went overboard with it and didn't handle it perfectly,
it does have,
you know,
sort of relevance to the plot.
I mean,
this Twilight stuff where it's like you are fighting the Twilight, and you do have a sense that because you did these things, you are helping this world come along.
Right.
Where it's like you do need to save these parts from the Twilight, otherwise it would have been fucked, you know?
Yeah.
And there is the sense of you're slowly opening up this world, and then you're slowly making it so you can cover the entire thing. And, like, you don't just get to do everything immediately like you want to.
What it reminds me of, though...
What am I doing?
And this game is... I guess you could say this is somewhat similar, but the difference is you don't have to do everything fucking twice, and there's no dungeon and town effect in this way. But, like, Soul Blazer for the Super Nintendo. It's one of my favorite Super Nintendo games, because what you do is you'll start off in a town that's just a field, like, literally nothing there, right? Then you go into the dungeon, and every time you kill a certain amount of enemies that are coming from one spawn point, like, you clear out that spawn point, and then you will step on a switch, and that spawn point was basically some part of town that had been turned into an enemy spawner.
Shit.
So after you step on the spawn point, then something will appear in the town, like a building or something that has a person in it. And then every time you go back to town, like, you know, all the people you've saved are there, and they're all like, oh my god, thank you, you saved me, now I'm gonna give you this item, you're so cool, right? And I loved that, because it was like, every time I defeated an enemy, I knew that I was bringing the world back to life, you know? And then once you've defeated all the enemies in a dungeon, the town is completely healed. Everyone's back, you see what it was supposed to be like, you know, all this time. And I guess you could say that this game is doing something similar. I just think that it does it with awkward pacing and mechanics. But that's just me.
Yeah. I don't know.
And I don't want to accuse it of being similar to this game that I've never played, and that I know is supposedly much worse. But, like, it reminds me a little bit of Final Fantasy 13 in the way that
Final Fantasy 13. So.
The way everyone talks about Final Fantasy 13 is that the first 20 hours are a hallway.
Oh, God.
The whole game is nothing but literal hallways. You're just walking down long stretches of hallway and watching cutscenes. And it starts off like in media res, so you don't really know where the plot's going or what everything means, and you're just going down hallways with like no freedom. And then like after 20 hours, then the game finally opens up and has like an open world, and you can do all these like all the things you wanted to do from the beginning, you know? Mm-hmm. And so like it's like the game doesn't even become itself until that 20-hour mark, yes. You know? And I think this game is, you know, it's not that bad. It's not a hallway, but like it does feel like you have to play through all this shit, and then finally the game becomes the game, and it's like, oh, now I get it, you know. Now the game is about me roaming Hyrule Field on a horse and having this beautiful gallant adventure, and like this is what I wanted to be playing, you know. It's like you have to work for it, basically.
I'm thinking. I'm now thinking where I've never thought before of the thematic value of the beginning of this game, and now I'm thinking it's I think it has something to do with the fear and restriction, and also Midna's character reflects your restriction as well, because she has been cursed by this Twilight and turned into this imp, and that is basically Link is also turned into an imp at the beginning of the game, turning into the wolf, and you going through all this shit is getting back. Is Link getting back to his prime so he can go save the day, and the entire game is getting Midna back to her prime so she can become a princess again. Mm-hmm. And so it's like it's reflecting in both stories in a way.
Could be that. Could be what they were going for. Some theme depth.
Yeah. And there's all this stuff with like the Twilight and sort of death and ghosts and things. Which, if we were paying attention to what they're saying, I'm sure I could have something more profound to say about it. I always remember liking this scene, though, where everyone's just kind of like cowering.
This
is
a very like film scene.
Yes,
like this feels like a zombie movie or something.
And it's cool because it's like these are the kids from the village. You saw what they were doing in the first part. And now they're in this place and they're afraid.
Right, this is like The Walking Dead.
Hmm. Yeah. That guy has shit boogers. His mustache looks like two pieces of shit coming out of his nose. Gross. Trailing down his face.
Thanks for that.
I can't help that they gave him a shit stash.
Gross.
Oh, Link.
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to art, you can always interpret it in a million different ways.
It's almost like you playing the game is Link as this wolf right now, where it's like, he wants to save his friends, but he is stuck in this fucking Twilight world, and he cannot, like, he can't get to do what he wants, just like I can't get to do what I want, which is be Link and go to the fucking dungeon, where we're both being restricted.
Yeah. Honestly, I think for the most part, analysis is nothing but people trying to justify the opinion they already have.
Yeah.
It's me going, I don't like this game,
but it's fun. That's
the
fun of analysis.
Interpretation of it, and you going, I like this game. Here's my interpretation of it, and it's all about whether or not we can buy it. Like all a good analysis is convincing.
Yes.
A good analysis.
Can I convince people that this game is deep and not just a pile of shit?
A good analysis has nothing to do with being the truth. It's all about being. Well, I mean, truth is relative. You know, there is no capital T truth. There's only a range of truth candidates. How does the quote go? Truth isn't relative to anything. It's a lot like God. There's not much you can say about God. Because
I don't think I remember the quote.
It was in a Milo song, but it's originally from like a philosopher.
Yes.
But like, you can't. No one knows what truth is. You only know what is convincing, what a truth candidate is, like something that you think might be true.
Yeah.
But there's no way to know what real truth is. You just have to be convincing about your interpretation of truth. And that's really what analysis is. It's you proposing a possibility of truth and other people deciding whether or not they agree with it. So, it's a question of who's more convincing. Am I more convincing or are you more convincing, you know? And people who want to like the game are going to find you more convincing because they're going to say, well, I like it, so there must be a reason, you know? Oh, maybe that's what I was feeling. Or now that you've mentioned it, now that's what I feel, you know?
Supposed to light candles?
And a lot of that has to do with...
Oh, right. Oh, this is cool. Wait.
I think the reason I like using creator interpretation so much, because, you know, a creator can say that this and that was their intent, but it's hard to say whether or not their intent shines. Like, a creator can say, oh, well, I did it to do this, and that's deep, you know. But even then, it's really a matter of, like, do I agree that that's deep? Do I agree that you really intended to do that?
Or like bring it up in hindsight?
Right.
You know? Because it's so easy to give something meaning after the fact.
Right, exactly. And I've seen creators who admit that they like who interpret their work rather than say this is what I intended. They'll say, well, this is how I kind of think of it now. You know? Which I always think is interesting. But the reason
I think it's viable because some stuff is just subconscious and you didn't think about it when you wrote it, but then it comes to you later. You're like, okay, well, that's why I wrote that. Because if you wrote something, there has to be a reason for it in your head somewhere.
But I like using creator comments when I do analysis because it's more convincing. Because, like, I don't use them to say, like, well, the creator said so it must be true. It's just like when what I feel aligns with what the creator feels, then it's a better argument, you know, than, like, if the creator says this is what I intended and I say no, it's like this, then it's there's no resonance there, then it's harder. Like I also have faith in creators to be smart and to know what they're doing. Like, I have a lot of faith in the idea that, like, whoever made Zelda is a smart guy.
Yes.
You know, like, he had a vision. He
probably had, you know, a vision and thematic value in what he was doing.
But at the same time, there's always, like, the question of to what extent, you know, like, do I think that the intention was to restrict you in order to reflect the thematic idea of Midna?
You know, I think I want to go so far as to say now that, think about the original, remember the trailer for Zelda on the GameCube, the infamous thing where they had, like, the super detailed graphics or whatever, and then they released Wind Waker and people were mad. Yeah. And then this is their detailed graphic Zelda that everyone wanted. What if that is part of the thematic value of taking away what the player wants? Because
a very Hideaki Anno approach.
So the creator is now giving us what we, like...
What you thought you wanted?
Yes, he's giving you what you thought you wanted, but then also taking it away, just like we took away what he wanted. So he's giving us something and then taking it away.
I think that's a bit of a stretch.
It's a total stretch, but I'm loving the idea right now, where it's like this game is a reflection of what we wanted.
I've never been too big a fan of the, like, trolling asshole creator idea.
Yeah, I don't say it's a trolling, like, asshole.
Well, I think when it seems like the creator is trolling, it's more often that they know it will come off as trolling, and so they feed into, like for instance, Andrew Hussey, the writer of Homestuck, of course. Right? Hussey gets accused of trolling all the time, but, like, I don't think the story ever goes in a way that doesn't make sense with Homestuck, right? Like, it's never something that... It might be something the audience didn't see coming or that subverted their expectations, but I never think it's something that he did just to be a dick. He's doing what he wants, but he's acknowledging the fact that the audience didn't want it. And so he paints himself as a troll. He'll show a scene in a way that's like, aha, I was actually doing this, you know, like, fuck you, even though it was clearly what he intended. It's not like the scene made no sense in context. Yeah. It's just that he presents it in, like, a trolly way because he knows that's how people are going to take it. He's just, like, you know, using that as part of the hype of the situation, sort of. And I think Hideaki Anno has done some of that too, where I don't think people overplay the idea that, like, parts of Ava are a response to the fans. Yeah. Like, especially with End of Ava because he put the death threats in there. But I don't think he made End of Ava just to piss people off. You know? I think he was aware that people were pissed off and he incorporated that into it. But I don't think Anno's ever been just a troll or anything like that. Or that. And then there are times, I think the only time I can think of where I do think the creators were deliberately trolling the audience is the ending of Panty and Stocking, because that's the joke. The ending of the show is a giant troll, like, yes. But that's because that's the nature of the show. It's a show about anarchy, a show about saying fuck you, and the ending's a giant fuck you. And, like, it's clearly intentional, and I'm sure the creators would say so, you know, but, like, in most cases where people are like, oh, they're just fucking with you. It's like,
shit.
if it makes,
What the fuck?
if the ending makes sense, then I don't think it's just made to fuck with you.
Yes.
You know, otherwise it wouldn't make sense. It would just be some random insane shit like the end of Panty and Stocking, where Stocking's like, oh, I've been a villain all along. It's like, no, that doesn't make any sense. It was done to fuck with people. You haven't seen Panty and Stocking, have you?
Nah, not the entire thing.
Spoilers for the ending. It turns into this gigantic, insane, like, you know, Gynax ending where, like, all this crazy shit's happening and they fight God or whatever. And, like, Panty at one point loses her memories and becomes a farm girl for a while. But then, like, after they beat God, it's this big trippy ending. All of a sudden, Stocking gets out her swords, cuts Panty to pieces, killing her. And it's like, and says to Briefs, like, yeah, I've been evil all along. I've been working for the bad guys. And if you want to bring Panty back, you have to come fight me in the next town, and then leave. And that's the end of the show.
Oh, God.
And it was like season 2, and it never happened.
Of course.
I think they want to make a season 2, but they just never got to. But, like, it's obviously a troll ending. It was made to fuck with people. Like, because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem like, you know, like it had any point other than to fuck with people. Anyway, that's it for this episode of Digi Bros.
Hey.
Next time,
I think I was going to say something, though.
Oh, with regards to that?
Something about endings. It was about, I was going to say that, fuck.
Next time on Digi Bros, Victor will finish this train of thought.